Well, I think that medicine has always been incredibly demanding from a time perspective. And I think that, to be honest, with the changes that have taken place both in the training arena, but also just in people's desire for lifestyle, I think people nowadays, compared to a generation or so ago, probably actually spend less time physically in facilities than they used to. So if it were purely a matter of hours, burnout and fatigue, you'd say it should be less of a problem. But I think in every job, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about medicine or whatever, but in every job there are good parts and bad parts. And when you get to the point that the bad parts exceed the good parts, you've got burnout. Nobody can unrelentingly tolerate misery more than joy at some point. So the question is, for me, is, how do we find the things that bring us joy, realizing there will always be the things that for all of us are kind of miserable. And I think that's a good part of what the Clinician Experience Project is about, is helping us remember the joy and find the joy, because you can't completely eliminate the tough parts. Clearly the best protections against fatigue, burnout, are the patients and colleagues. If you think about it, what made residency and fellowship so wonderful was the people that you trained with. It was your cohort, it was the residents in your year, the junior residents, the senior years residents. It was your colleagues. And, we all spent ridiculous amounts of time in some program somewhere, but we loved it because we spent so much time with colleagues who were going through the same thing. So that's important. And then the patients are the best part of what we do. These are real people who have real problems, and you can be dead dog tired, but when you do something that helps somebody, there is an energy that comes from that is renewing. This last weekend was a perfect example of that kind of storm for me. I had months ago planned an evening with my family to go out to dinner and to go to a musical concert. My wife had set it all up, and we had most of my family here in town with their spouses or their fiancés or whoever they were dating, and we were scheduled to go to dinner at 6, and the concert was at 8 in the evening. And they at about 5 o'clock, I get a call from an outside hospital by a physician who's got a patient who's got a bile duct injury. And he feels horrible about it. The patient's jaundiced and has a critical injury that needs to be addressed. And I'm the person in this region who fixes those problems. And while I'm not technically on call, I'm the person who's always on call for that. And so I knew that they'd be here in about 2 hours by ambulance. So I left, I went home, had dinner with my family. They then went off to the concert. I had a wonderful time with them. They went to the concert and I went back to the hospital. And I met this young woman, her mother, and her sister, and we talked about what needed to be done. And then at 9 o'clock at night, started in the OR. And at 1:30 in the morning, finished. And we had her fixed. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, the hospital I'm in went live with its EMR. So we changed the systems over. And so the orders that I had just put in our old system, unbeknownst to me, didn't get accepted because of the transition 2 hours. So then I had to rewrite orders at 3 o'clock in the morning for the patient, and eventually went home at about 4:45 in the morning. And you could say that, that's just horrible. I missed an evening with my family. I was up all night, had to deal with a brand new EMR. And yet that person went home today, 4 days later. She's fixed. She's got her life back. She has a smile on her face. and she was grateful for all that was done. And I can take all the bad for those experiences when there is the good that goes with it. And the good always comes. Patients are so grateful. So the patients are just an incredible source of energy when you help them and when you can help them. We can't fix every problem, but that one I could fix. And so that's what keeps me personally from getting burned out, is because I know those events will just keep coming.